Brian, do you want to try?
I like your singing now. Wow.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Now wow. But you know you're not gonna be smiling. You'll be like surprised. Now wow.
Oh, like angry?
No.
Not angry, but like shocked.
Good shot.
Yeah, good shot.
Now wow.
That's it.
Perfect. Can we all make
Yeah,
me get
go,
off
go,
it?
go, go,
Stephanie,
go
you
with-
go Shay Shay.
Go with Shay Shay, okay? Because you've been asking.
Brian, do you want to try? Do you
Yeah.
want to try?
Now, wow.
Perfect.
But
So yeah, it's rolling already.
So hey guys, welcome back to our channel Living with Little Colors.
Chesh.
Today we have the pleasure of discussing and asking a few questions as a thing. So this is what happens.
Yeah.
This is what happens every time. So hey guys.
Don't worry.
Hey guys, welcome back to our channel Living with Little Colors. We're here to discuss with a couple of friends of ours. Basically ask a few questions that you have asked in your numerous comments. Basically living in Poland, okay? We have a couple of friends of ours, Brian and Emily. Well, I will leave it up to OJ to start the next part. Yeah.
Emily just grabbed me up. It's like, okay, like, it's time. We're doing this. It's not like, we're doing this right. Yes, we're doing this.
Doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So today's video is going to be about the cost of living in Poland, how we live in Poland, and how much we spend in a month as a family. They are also a family, and they are from the US. So you guys are going to hear their own
Perspective
and view on the cost of living in Poland as foreigners. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
So anyway, just to build
Yeah.
just to build a storyline, okay? So we met Brian and Emily, and their first kid, Shay Shay, who happens to be our
Yeah.
son's best playmate.
Yeah,
playmate.
they name me every single time.
And yeah, Shay, and of course,
This is
basically
Shay Shay's parents.
almost a year now, okay? And well, they now have baby Lucy, and of course we have baby Zane, which you already know about, okay? So they've been living in Poland for like 3 years now.
2 years.
So 2 years now. So basically around the same time frame when we moved to Poland, but different codes for different people because people spend differently. Okay, so we decided to make this video for you guys to see how other families live and basically do everything in Poland. Okay, so we have a few questions. We're trying to make it as informal as possible because already they were thinking we're going to put them on the spot. And well, we're not going to do that, okay? So the whole idea is to find out if and how life has been for them for the last 2 years, okay? So yeah, we're going to ask us a few questions, very simple questions.
Well, we can speak generally.
Yeah.
So there are some things coming from the U.S. that are, some things certainly are more expensive relative to your paycheck, and some things are less. And then probably the biggest surprise in the positive direction is dealing with the medical system. So we gave birth to our second daughter here, and compared to the US, everything is much more transparent and upfront about what things will cost. So for example, you could look at the hospital website and see how much a normal birth would cost.
And we were worried because we're not Polish citizens. We had a travel insurance by his employer that didn't cover pregnancy after 32 weeks, which we discovered too late. So we knew we'd be paying out of pocket, and we were trying to prepare for that. And it was great to have this transparency on Polish websites, which we did not experience with our first daughter, who was born in the US.
And comparing it, so here in Poland where we don't have insurance, we knew how much the birth would cost up front, and it was still far less than the birth cost in the US for us with insurance.
Oh, wow.
And part of that has to do with the complexities of the US system, which are very difficult to navigate, even if you have to incomes and employers who pay for insurance. So here it just seems to be much more transparent and straightforward.
For similar services,
Right.
I wouldn't say that my experience of giving birth in the U.S. was way better or different than giving birth in Poland, but the price was at least twice, if not 3 times as much.
Okay, but you said something that was very, very, very interesting. So you can't tell how much you're going to give birth in the States websites don't tell you that?
In general, they don't reveal what things will cost up front, and even when you ask and press, they're reluctant to give you a price. And then oftentimes after the procedure, the bills that you get are also unclear. They're not exactly itemized. They just
Wow.
kind of slap a price on it.
Wow.
It's like a game.
So here it's much, much easier to navigate and more affordable as well.
Okay. So that is really noted. Okay. So what about living expenses? Okay.
Sure, so we spend, I don't know, a few hundred zloty per week at the grocery store probably, to feed our 2 daughters. That ends up being the bulk of our expenditures. We don't have a car, so we don't, pay for gas, things like that. When we were, before the pandemic, when we were traveling around a lot more, we would get the kind of city passes for the transportation, which is also very affordable, but now we don't use public transportation all that much because we're not going out as much, so we don't spend a lot on that.
So would you say you spent more money pre-pandemic than during? Or
I would think definitely more money pre-pandemic for several reasons. So we would go out to restaurants more often, maybe a couple times a week. We would also travel more often, so we would do weekend trips here or there. Or, for example, I'm doing research in different parts of the country, so we would travel for my research. But with the pandemic, like most people, we're mostly at home, and so I don't think, there was 12 months where I don't think we went to a restaurant. Most of them were closed most of the time, and things like that. Now, since the restrictions have started to be lifted over the summer, we are doing more, traveling a little more, going out to restaurants more often. And of course, that starts to build your expenditures
exactly.
per month more.
Okay, so but let's put in the ballpark, okay? Like we know when we spend, we put some amount of money for feeding.
Mhm.
So let's say with our family we do like how much a month? Like 1,000 zloty, okay?
Yeah.
Averagely. Now sometimes we overshoot this budget and sometimes we don't, okay?
Right.
And, well, depending on what we spend. If we go out or we do more than we should, then that's it. But would you say that you spend about the same range or less or more?
Probably more
More.
on food, probably around 2,000, I would think,
Okay,
per month.
2,000. And would you attribute this to the type of food you eat, or is it?
We tend to eat quite a wide variety of foods, and we like a lot of the cuisine that we like isn't Polish cuisine, and so we're buying things to make either Mexican food or different types of Asian food, things like that. So yeah, we tend to also shop around, and luckily for us, there's a lot of good stores in the area, but they also those things tend to be more expensive than your, sausage or rice or things like that.
We knew coming in that this was not the cheapest area we could have lived in the city.
Yeah.
And we made that choice kind of with open eyes. And so I think, we just know when we're going out to get things, unless we travel further out, the thing's going to be maybe a bit more expensive in some of the stores. And yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And how has it been like for you with the kids?
Like this one?
Like this kid.
This is Lucy.
The thing that we really took advantage of here is the second-hand market for baby products and kids' clothes. So our stroller, changing table, bassinet, all of that we were able to buy on Facebook Marketplace and whatnot for considerable discount. That was really helpful. Yeah. And luckily though, when we moved in, some of that stuff was already here. So for example, our landlady who lived here had a child who was the same age as our oldest, Jay, and so there was already a crib here, so we didn't have to buy a crib, and that was really helpful as well. Yeah. And then for baby clothes, a lot of the stuff that Lucy wears was Shay's that we brought from the United States. But then the other stuff, Emily's been really good about buying things kind of seasonally, so we tend to do big purchases at the beginning of each season. And I don't know, we spend a couple hundred zloty on clothes for the season, for Shay and for Lucy. and then that'll get us through. Winter costs more, but because we had to get the Spivorek for the the little sleeping bag for the stroller and their winter coats and their boots and all that. So.
But I don't know if you'd agree. I think the hardest thing about moving here was in the U.S. I knew exactly where to shop for everything.
Yeah.
For discounts, I knew what prices were normal, and then coming to Poland, it was just like the stores are different, the currency is different. There are some things that seemed like cheaper than the U.S., but then a lot of things like clothes seemed more expensive than the U.S. And so how did you kind of navigate that? For me, I feel like I was asking friends, and even then, people have different tastes. It took me a long time to figure out what it was.
For me, when we moved, I went to look for Zeki, and as she said, I just went to a thrift store, and I was like, you know what, Zeki, I brought this clothes in less than a month or two, and I just went to thrift stores. And I think that was just my Zeki. I thrift stores a lot, and I shopped. Like, it was really surprising because at first, checking for clothes online, they were so expensive, and I was converting to Naira. Trust me, it's not to Naira. I was like, hell no, I'm not paying for that. Like, that is too expensive. In less than a month or two, he's going to outgrow. Like, obviously, I wasn't hoping to have a boy. I was thinking I was going to have a girl.
Maybe next time.
In 4 years.
Yeah, we're waiting for you guys.
Yeah, we're waiting for you guys.
We're waiting for you
Well,
guys.
we can take the boy next time. We can just switch. So that way we have a nice mix.
That'll be perfect. And yeah, the thrift stores actually did a lot
Yeah,
of good
I
for
think-
me.
I
And
think with the shopping for clothes, we did it correctly the first time.
Yeah.
Because we moved to Grodzisk, we weren't in Warsaw that time.
yeah.
So when we were in Grodzisk, we kind of went to the thrift store as a first. I mean, there was a thrift store, so when we started, we just continued the whole tradition. Okay,
And
so we were lucky with that.
Every other time
Where
we had
the-
to get something new, we just entered
Exactly.
Pepco.
Exactly.
Pepco was the saving
The
grace.
challenge where we overspent when we came in was
Was
food,
feeding.
was
Yeah.
feeding.
Right.
We were spending more than we were. Like, if you remember the last conversation we had, you said something about going to an American store here
Yes.
in Warsaw, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing with us. When we came in, we were going to shop from an African store. We still do,
Right.
but we've learned over time that you don't buy everything from the African store
Right.
because it's, how did you say, penny wise, pound foolish, right? I think that's the right statement, okay?
Definitely.
So we buy the things we desperately require in our food to give us that taste we want, okay? But the others, we kind of look at it as luxury, okay? So we buy only when we need to buy. And that really helped us in savings because initially we were spending a lot of money for things that we just, it was basically we just wanted to have the same taste.
Right.
Same.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not
exploring.
we're not willing to explore or willing to accept. We're in denial.
Right.
Okay, we need to accept the fact that we moved, so we need to find alternatives, and which is what we've done now. Okay, I'm not sure how you guys, because like you said, you went to an American store to buy what was it we ate last time?
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs,
Right.
and you said something about the buns being ate just like it was in America or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember that statement, and I was like, okay, we're going to talk about that. But you definitely don't go to the American stores every time.
No,
No, that
maybe
was
only
for 4th
once
of
every
July.
couple of months.
Yeah, kind of like you said, if there's a sauce, if there's a spice that we can use a little bit of each time, that goes a long way. We like those tastes. And I think we decided early on that living in Poland, there's a lot of things that are foreign, and we really enjoy cooking, and we really enjoy the types of food that we like. And so as far as we were able to in our budget, we tried to make that that work for us. But yeah, also tried to get smart about it. We're a little bit lucky because American food is really popular in Poland, and so we were able to find a lot of things.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
discount
so
as well.
another question is, basically you're English speakers, okay? So how has it been for you transversing Poland, knowing fully well that this is not an English-speaking country? Do you speak Polish? Do you speak Polish? Right.
We speak Polish enough, so I study with Polish, and I maybe just regularly conversational. But we certainly speak it enough that we haven't had any real problems traveling around restaurants. Maybe to kind of balance out how appreciative we are of the medical situation.
Yeah.
The medical situation is also the most difficulty we've had speaking Polish, simply because wherever it was in the level, whether it was with OBGYNs, pediatricians in the hospital, not all of the staff speak English to the same degree, and that was earlier in our trip, and so we also weren't as proficient in Polish at the time. And so navigating that situation was, that's probably the most difficulty we've had with the language. Warsaw is very English friendly, the larger cities are as well. And in general, we know enough to kind of get by. But that's after years and years of studying and still speaking it poorly. So
I think I'm always carrying a little bit of stress though. Like I'm going to get myself into a situation. I'm going to not be able to get out of it because I don't know Polish. I don't know if you guys feel the same. And so just a little constant worry. But so far, so good with getting by with some Polish, but mostly English.
And what do you think about the rate of acceptance from the Polish people, your friends that you've met over time, the people who you basically see here and there, you go to the shops, do you think that Polish people accept it? I mean, are they an accepting bunch of people?
it seems like a really mixed bag. So sometimes you run into people who are just frustrated that you aren't speaking Polish, and that's understandable. Certainly depending on the situation. But at the same time, a lot of people are also very impressed when you know a little bit or try to speak Polish. And then there's another subset of people who are really impressed that you know any at all, and appreciate that fact. And even for us, so whereas working with Polish, at least reading Polish is part of my work, I still have close friends who are surprised when I order a hamburger in Polish, right? And some of those things we've been doing since the beginning, right? And you can do really well. So yeah, you see really, I don't know, it's certainly mixed. I think in Warsaw there's probably, actually this is funny. So I think both of us are more comfortable speaking Polish outside of Warsaw because the level of English compared to in Warsaw, because Warsaw is just is the most English accepting part of the country. But when we're outside, we don't necessarily feel the pressure to speak Polish as well if we're going to be speaking Polish. Whereas in Warsaw, if we're going to speak Polish, it's kind of embarrassing not to speak it well because everybody can just speak English anyway. But for that reason, we really like traveling outside of the capital because we do get to work in Polish more, and most of the time our best experiences exchanging with people in Polish have been outside of Warsaw. Because people just go with the flow. You might speak it poorly, but you're trying, and you can.
So basically, guys, if we could summarize that, if you would want to learn Polish, maybe Warsaw isn't the place for you.
Yeah.
You should go to one of the.
I think that's true.
Neighboring towns, okay, where the demand to speak Polish will be higher.
Yeah.
Right.
So you will be forced to speak because you will be surrounded by people who only speak Polish.
Yes.
As opposed to English. Yes, you will find people who speak English, but there are more people who speak English in Warsaw. Meaning that if you're coming from an English-speaking country and you're worried about whether you'll be accepted to speak English, then Warsaw is the place to be. But also you need to consider the fact that cost of living in Warsaw, as opposed to neighboring towns, might be more. Okay, of course, not removing the fact that places like Gdansk and Sopot will be expensive as well, but that's for another reason entirely because they're highly touristy places. So
we have found that as well, though, when we've stayed in smaller towns. It's been
okay. So in your 2 years in Warsaw, in Poland, what cities have you visited?
The list is pretty long. So in the north of Poland, we've been to Sopot, Gdańsk, Olsztyn, Toruń, Pelplin, Poznań, Lidzbark, Warmiński, some smaller towns as well. In central Poland, Poznań, Lądź, Płock, Warsaw. In southern Poland, we've been to Kraków, Jaliczka, Zakopane.
This is over years.
This is over several years, right? Wrocław, Jelenia Góra, and then a bunch of smaller towns that have castles and churches in between.
So if you were to advise on top 3 travel locations, okay, excluding Warsaw, okay, where would you advise anyone to go to?
Krakow.
Yeah, definitely Krakow.
Tri-City, so Gdańsk, Sopot, and Gdynia.
Yeah. Because if you go there, you can always translate to see the 3 locales. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we also love Olsztyn in the northeast. It's in the Polish Lake Country, and that might be it's my favorite spot to travel, but collectively it's also our one of our favorite spots.
Number of lakes there, right? And lots of lakes.
A lot of lakes. So Olsztyn, for example, is a good-sized city and has a really beautiful medieval old town, but it also has 2 lakes in the middle of the city that you can go to the beach and things like that.
Okay. Only thing I think we could add, we could ask is how. Yeah, we did talk about kids. Okay, but how have you? I mean, Shay Shay is about the same age with Zephan. Okay, Zephan is going to Przedszkole right now, so preschool. We do know that Shay isn't going to school, but her English is lovely. How have you tried, or how have you succeeded in training her in English? How has schooling been like?
Yeah, so we don't really do much schooling. Once in a while, Shay and I will learn some letters on our chalkboard. But in general, we just try to have conversations with her. So, for example, I take her for a walk every morning, and we just talk the whole time. Try to
Shay,
Now we have.
come on, sit down here. Okay, so Shay, can you say hello to the camera?
Okay. We have the whole clan. Hi, baby Lulu. Come here. Come.
Yes, hey Lucy.
We can see Lucy.
Come here, come closer.
Yeah, come closer.
Come here.
Come closer. So guys, like we said, it's a funny situation because Shay and Zephan are practically age mates. Same with Lucy and Zane. Okay, they were born in the same year, months apart, I think.
Zephan and Shay, I think it's January, February.
Yeah, January, February, and then
Lucy, April, June.
yeah, April and June.
Sorry.
So basically the same age, and yeah, awesome.
So what's it like
And they're gonna miss
raising kids in Poland for you guys?
I think a lot of it feels normal to me because inside our house we're just cooking dinner, speaking English, playing lots of games, and yeah.
We have found that Warsaw in particular, but most of Poland in general is more kid-friendly than our experience in the U.S. And we only had a year and a half living in the U.S. with Shay. But for example, spaces on the bus and on the metro for strollers and elevators everywhere. And generally, if there's stairs to a building, there's also a tiny ramp to get in. And
People help you.
people help you with children. They tend to be, relatively accommodating when you have kids, whether it's in restaurants or museums or whatnot. So it's actually been really good. And to kind of circle back to expenditures we were talking about before, there's a lot of in Warsaw, there's a lot of young families, so there's people selling products secondhand to help, and eager to talk. Some of our friends we met because they were selling something and we bought it, and so suddenly had something in common with the kids. So we found it to be really enjoyable. There's a playground on every corner, so we haven't had too many challenges that were beyond what we could do, and a lot of it comparatively to the U.S. Seems even easier or kind of more conducive to child raising.
I think that's the most interesting and actually surprising part, because most people, from our side of the country, region of the continent, basically, in Africa, believe that the U.S. is a place that will solve all your problems. Most Africans, especially Nigerians, believe we just need to go to the U.S. Okay, the U.S. is the best place to go. If you do a survey with 10 different randomly chosen Nigerians, okay, and ask them where do they want to go to, you'll be shocked to find out that you will have more people that want to go to the U.S. as opposed to Europe, because to them, the U.S. is the place where all dreams are made. Okay, so it's good to hear a perspective that from people who have lived there most of their life, to discover that it might not be a bed of roses, okay, and things might be easier.
Well, there are plenty of things about the U.S. that we like, and we're moving back there, so and we're happy to be doing so. But I think there are a lot of things about European countries, Poland included, like the social safety net is just better in Europe. It's more robust. It seems more able to actually help people who are in need. And especially when you have a young family and when you don't have, kind of full health insurance coverage and all that. That's what is most important in your life, and that is so. Had we been in the same situation, whether it's a health insurance situation or the kind of being a little transient going to the U.S., I don't know if we would have had the same comfort level as we did in Poland.
Yeah.
Although I do have to say that in the U.S. it's not as homogenous, right? And so in Poland, it's very clear that we're not Polish. And I think no matter how long we stayed, how long we had to learn the language, we would never 100% feel Polish. Whereas in the U.S., I think there really isn't the same sort of standard expectation. And so,
Because the diversity is so
because
big.
diversity is so much bigger.
Yeah.
So I do miss that aspect a lot.
I think that generally everyone who comes here as a foreigner has that thing with them where they miss home because that diversity isn't
Joby, hi there.
here, okay? Yeah, so I basically think everything has been covered.
So thank you guys for sticking with us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for having us and feeding us and having this interview with us. So it's
Thanks
time
for including us.
Yeah, of course. So
We
everybody.
told you guys that there was nothing to worry about.
Bye. Bye.